Hello and welcome to part 17 of Let's Create a 2D Platformer in the Godot game engine. My name is Colin, and in this tutorial, not so many series, we're creating this 2D platformer video game. Of course, in this game, you control the player on screen using keys on your keyboard. Of course, you can walk, run, jump, and fall. You can jump on enemies to squash them. You can get hurt by enemies and lose lives. You can collect coins to win the game. You can shoot fireballs, do wall jumps. You know how 2D platformer games work. As it stands in our project right now, we have a fairly complete development build of our game project. That means our game works as a game. We have a character that can explore a fairly large level. We can collect coins to win the game. We can squash enemies, of course. And at this point in our game project, in tutorial number 17, this one, I'm going to be showing you how to take your game from Godot, the Godot game engine, and export it into an HTML file, a web page file, and then how to share it on the internet so people can actually play it and test it out on a well-known indie game website called itch.io. If you have not seen itch.io, I'll be showing you it a little bit later in this video, but let's go ahead and jump into the Godot editor. Of course, if you like this video or if you learned something in it, please go ahead and click on that like button below this video. It really helps out me and my channel. And if you want to see more videos like this one in the Godot game engine or in Blender or other technology, click on that subscribe button as well, and click that bell icon to be notified whenever I upload a new tutorial. So as it stands in our project right now, if I press the play button, the game as it stands will play. There is now music as of the last video in the title menu screen, this one, as well as the game level. And in the game itself, when you do certain actions like jump or land on an enemy to squash it or collect a coin, you also hear a sound effect. So I'm going to press the play button now. I'll stop talking and you'll be able to hear the music and the sound effects all at the same time. Okay, so that is the game as it stands. Let's get to exporting our game. If I want to export this project, I'm going to go up to Project and Export, and it brings up this very blank looking export dialog box. Now, Godot itself is a fairly small and manageable program. I believe if you go to godotengine.org, which is this website right here, hopefully this is maybe one of the options that you went to get Godot in the first place. Godot is only about a 45 megabyte download, and that is true. And that is all you need to make a game. But when it comes time to actually export your game, you need to download and install what's called an export templates file. And that gives you all the files, or Godot, all the files it needs to have in order to export Godot into different platforms. So right now, this export dialog box doesn't exactly give me everything I need. So I'm going to press close, and I'm going to go up to, this time, the editor window where I have an option called Manage Export Templates. If I click this, a new dialog box, a smaller one, will pop up where it says the current version of the export templates, and I'm using Godot 3.2.2 right now. There is a different version of these export templates. It's a big file you have to download for every different slight version of Godot. So if you're using 3.2.3 in the future, you'll need to re-download these export templates, okay? So I could press download right here, and that would work. It would actually, connect to the internet, and it would find the version that I would need to download it. I can click on that and it would start downloading. In my case, I've actually gone onto Godot's website, so I'm going to press close because you have the option to install from a file. So if you go to Godot's website, godotengine.org, and you go to the downloads page, I find this download is quicker. If you go to this website and you go down and you scroll down on the downloads page, by the way, I'm using the Windows standard 64-bit version of Godot. I'm not using the mono version because I'm not programming in C#. I'm using GDScript, of course, in this project. If you scroll down, there is the export templates standard and the export templates mono C# versions of this. So I'm going to click on this link and it will download into my downloads folder. But in my case, I actually already have the export templates file here on my desktop. How big is it? It ends with .tpz. And if I right click on it or just hover over it, it is 440 megabytes. So it might take you a little while to download. It is a zipped file in a TPZ file format, and that's specific to Godot. So now in Godot that I have that on my desktop, I'm going to click install from file. I'm going to go to my desktop. I'm going to navigate to my C drive user folder and desktop, and there it is, Godot version 3.2.2 stable export templates.tpz. I will press with it selected open. and it will bring it into Godot. And then it says it's green right here, so I can press close here. Now that I have the export templates installed, I can go to project and export, and now I can press this add button, and it will present me with all the different platforms I can export to from Godot. I'm going to be exporting in this video to an HTML5 document. An HTML file, if you're not aware, is a website file. It usually is coded in HTML. That's a coding language, and HTML5 is the newest version of that. Oh, you know what? I just got a notification on my screen. You can't see it, but it just popped up that Avast antivirus on my computer, the free version of Avast antivirus, has detected that my export templates contain a generic piece of malware. I don't believe that to be the case. Of course, you can be your own judge. I got these Godot export templates from the official Godot website. So I went into my Avast anti-malware software and I restored that file that it identified as part of the export templates back out of Avast's vault so that I can use it again. You might have to do that if you're also using a malware software that recognizes or thinks that these export templates are part of a piece of malware. Okay, so now I'm going to click on add, and I'm going to add an HTML5 option to export this game. So I'll click on HTML5 and it'll load it right here. Of course, on the right hand side, when I have this selected, we see the options for exporting to an HTML5 website. So I can go through these tabs. I don't think there is anything here that I'm going to actually change. You can kind of look these up on the internet if you like. All I'm going to do is I'm going to choose an export path where I want to save my web page to. So I'm going to press this little folder icon. I'm going to go out to my desktop. So right now I'm inside of my project folder. I'm going to press the up button. I'm going to make a new folder on my desktop called Exported Platformer Game. And I'll correct that capital X right there, and I'll press OK. And as you can see, now I am inside of that exported platformer game folder that's empty that I just created. And in this empty folder, I'm going to create a file that ends with .html, and I'm going to suggest that you name this exactly the same as me, which is required for a future step. You're going to name this file index, I-N-D-E-X, .html, and you're going to type that exactly, including the .html. That is a requirement you'll see in a few minutes for itch.io. So with that name, I will press save. And is it exported yet? Well, if I go out to my desktop, I have this folder called Exported Platformer Game. Does it have anything in it? No, it does not. So I'm going to go back into Godot. I believe I now actually need to press Export Project. And it's going to bring the same dialog box up and confirm index.html. This is a little bit redundant, but I'll now press save. And that time that I press save after Export Project, it actually put the index.html as well as other files like a favicon picture, a JavaScript file, a pack file, and the largest file in here is called a .wasm, and this is a compiled WebAssembly file that will run in your web browser. It is a compiled program for the internet. It's a WebAssembly file. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, hey, this is an index.html file. It's a web page file. If I double click on it, at least on my computer, it defaults to opening in Google Chrome, and it should just be able to run in Google Chrome, and I should be able to play my game. Well, yes, this index.html file is just a normal HTML file, but it has embedded inside of it a web executable file that can only run from a web server and not locally from your computer. So if I double click on this index.html file, depending on your computer and what the default file type association is for HTML files, it should or it might open up in a web browser. That's great. But as you can see in Google Chrome on my computer, which should support games in a WASM format, it does not. And again, this is because it's running locally off my computer. If you have access to a web server, you could drag all of these files into a folder on that web server on the internet, and it might likely run from there. But now in the second part of this video, I'm going to be showing you how to get this game to work and be accessible by other people, if you like, on itch.io. So I'll open up my web browser again, and here is itch.io. If you're not aware, itch.io is a major player in the indie game space. It's a website where you can distribute and share and even sell indie games you create, and of course find indie games that other people have made. You can create an account here. There will be on the top bar a place for you to log in or register. I've already gone ahead and done that. Please know that itch.io nor any of the games that you see on screen right now are sponsoring me in any way for this video. I don't receive a dime from itch.io for saying their name and using them in this video. It's just a solution that I found for you and I to share our games on the internet for free. So once you have an account at itch.io, you'll go up to your dashboard, and this is where you can see your game projects. As you can see, I have access to my BornCG Godot tutorial platformer. This is my demo project that I posted at the beginning of this tutorial mini-series, and I've talked about it and showed you it at the beginning of all of these videos. So you can go ahead and check that out at borncg.itch.io. But right now, I'm going to create a new project and show you how this works. So I'll press create new project. I'm going to call this Godot Platformer Part 17 Demo. And did I spell platformer right? Yes, I did, although I don't know that's a proper English word. The project URL, if I just click in this box, it'll kind of fill out the rest of the web address that will be the active web address for this game, just based on what I named the title of this project. Short description or tagline, I'm going to write in, this is the state of my platformer game in tutorial number 17. Okay, I believe that's okay. Classification, what am I uploading? I am uploading a game, not game assets or mods or anything like that, so I'll leave that at the default. Downloadable, no, I'm gonna make this game playable right in the web browser for somebody who finds this game online, maybe you. So I'm gonna change this to HTML, which means I'm gonna provide itch.io with a zip file or HTML file that will be played right in the browser. So I'll select HTML. Release status, is this a game that's released or in development or a prototype? I'm gonna select prototype for this. Do I want people to have to pay for this game? Yes, you can sell games right on itch.io. In this case, I'm going to select no payments. My demo game that I have on my website that you've seen at the beginning of all of these tutorials, that's already semi-complete with all of the kind of bonus features that we'll be talking about later in this mini series. Well, it is a $0 or donate option. If you select that, you can suggest a price, and that's what I've put. $2 as a suggested donation price to play that game. Although for this, I'll just say no payments. Uploads. Now I need to upload a zip file containing my game. So I'm going to quickly pause this upload and setting up the game process because I need to create a zip file of all of these files. Now on my computer, I happen to have a program for creating zip files. It is called 7-Zip, and I believe it is available at 7zip.org. So if you go there, you can install, and I have installed the 64-bit Windows version of 7-Zip, and I've restarted my computer. And once you do that, you can right-click on files that you select, and you get a context menu right here, 7-Zip, and I'm going to say 7-Zip, hey, add it to an archive. That means make a .zip file or a similar file on your computer right in this location. So it's going to name this the name of the containing folder. So I'm right in the folder. I've selected all of these files. It's important that you don't just zip the folder on your desktop. You want to zip all the individual files so that all the files are directly in the zip file. It's going to name it the name of the folder though that they are all in. It's going to maybe default to a .7z file for 7-Zip. You don't want that. That's a proprietary kind of a file. You want a normal .zip. Other than that, I'm going to press OK. And when I do that, it'll create the zip file. And now I can go back into itch.io and I can upload that file. That file on my computer is a little over 5 megabytes, about 5.5 megabytes. So let's go ahead and upload that. I'll click the upload button. I'll go into my exported platformer game folder on my desktop. I'll select the zip file. I'll press open. It's going to upload it. And there's a few options to choose. Is this an executable? That means, is it a program? Yes, it is. Is it for one of these platforms? No, it is not. It is a web page file. So I'm going to select this file will be played in the browser. Yes. Now, a little bit below that section is embed options. And this is how the game will actually be sized and appear in itch.io's webpage for your game. You need to know the dimensions of your game. In our case, if I go back into the Godot editor and I close this export dialog box and I go to project and project settings. If I go into project settings under the first general tab, of course, the size of the window of my game is what I'm looking for here. So I'm going to go down to display, this display section and window, and the width and height are right here. They are the defaults for Godot, which is 1024 pixels wide by 600 pixels tall. So now I'll go back into itch.io and I'll type that in, 1024 by 600. And do I want to select any of these mobile friendly? Probably not, because my game requires a keyboard with arrow keys and a space bar, so probably not. Full screen button, I think I'll leave that off. Enable scroll bars, probably not. Automatically start page on load, that one is up to you. If you want the game to actually start when the page loads, maybe I'll select that, but I'll leave that off actually. Details, genre, well, you can pick whatever you like that suits your game. Tags, you can go through here and pick keywords that match your game theme or your game genre. I'll keep going. I'm going to skip some of these options just to save the time of this tutorial. I believe now I will press save and view page. So now my game is loading for the first time. itch.io has to kind of process it, but hey, it says run game now because I didn't select that auto run option a moment ago. If I press run game, it'll load. Okay, something was off there, and I'm going to go back to the page and show you in just a moment. The sizing of my game was off, and I left that the way that it is on purpose because I want to show you how to update your game if you make changes or updates and you want to change your game, so that people who follow you on itch.io, they can actually get notified when you make updates and fixes to your game. So if I go back to the Godot platformer demo that I just created and press run game, you're going to see that on the title screens and on the you win or you lose or game over screens, the menu size is wrong, or the screen size is wrong. Even though I looked up the size of my game in Godot and I'm not sure why this is, and I typed in 1024 by 600, and that is correct. When I press run game, the menu screens are off, and the game is actually showing me when I'm in the game level, it's showing me more of the level than I'm supposed to see. So I'll show you that now. Okay, so as you can see on the game over on the title screen and on the you win as well, you have this gray area. We don't want that. So I'm going to go back into Godot and I'm going to re-export my game to fix that, or after I fix that, I'll re-export it and re-upload it. So let's go back into the Godot editor. But as you can see, this is not a complicated thing to do to export your game into a website file that you can then upload. It's not too hard. So how do we fix that problem where you see outside of the game window? Well, we're going to change the scaling settings for our window of our game. I'm going to go back up to that project settings dialog box and back down in the first tab, general, down to display and window, where we have these two dimensions. And I'm going to perhaps turn resizable off, but if I have it on and I press just the play button right inside of Godot to preview, you can see that I can make my game bigger, just like is happening in the web browser. And you can see gray. That's what I wanted you to see. I could hear music under my voice there. Hopefully you could hear me during that. So I'm going to go into project settings and down to display window under the general tab. I'm going to turn resizable off, but more importantly here, I'm going to go down to this section called stretch. And the stretching for your game when the game window is resized is set to disabled, and we're going to change that. There are three options: disabled, which means no stretching, which means that you see more of your game, which maybe you don't want, like the gray. There is 2D, which is a nicer way of scaling a game up that will actually make the quality more high resolution, or use the materials and textures and fonts that you have in your game and make them bigger and make it kind of look nice. There is also this option called a viewport scaling or stretching, and that means that it's actually making the pixels kind of interpolate out so that when you make your game window larger, your game will kind of uniformly look more pixelated. And if that's the look of your game and your game is a very pixely looking game, maybe that's the effect that you're going for. In my case, I'm going to choose 2D, which will basically just scale my game a little bit nicer. You might find that with 2D, this option, the fonts of your game might look a little bit funny depending on how much you've scaled your game, but generally this is the better option to choose. You can make sure that your game keeps its aspect ratio. That means how wide it is versus how tall it is. That means that if itch.io decides to place your game in a perfectly square container or viewport on the screen, it might stretch and kind of look squashed inside of a square instead of a wide landscape rectangle. So I'm going to actually say ignore, and that means my game could be stretched. You might want to change this option depending on what you want, okay? But I'm going to choose ignore, and I'll press close, so 2D and ignore, and I believe I have resizable not turned on, so disabled, okay? I'm going to press close, and just so that I know that I've updated my game and I'm playing the newer version, I'm going to, on my title menu, go to the background color. It is a color rectangle, and I'm going to change my color rectangle, the background's color a little bit. I'll just change it to a kind of a bluey color, just so I know I'm playing a different version of the game. I'm going to do a Control S to save. I'm going to go back up to Project and Export. I'm going to go back into my project exported platformer game folder and actually delete all of the files in there because I'm going to replace them when I re-export right now. So I deleted those files. I'll go back into Godot. I'm going to press Export Project. I have the same export path still, Export Project, and press Save. So now inside of that folder, I have new versions. I'm going to select them all again. This is the same process. I'm going to right click with 7-zip. I'm going to add to archive. I'm going to leave it at the default name of the containing folder. It's a .zip. I'll press OK. Now inside of itch.io, I'll go back there. I'm going to click Edit Game, or I could just go back to my dashboard where I can see a list of all of my games and click on Edit here. By the way, if you don't have a cover image for your game, it's very hard to make your game findable on itch.io. So you can take a screenshot of your game or make some graphics for your game in a program like Blender or Inkscape or Krita. You can find a way of making a graphic that represents your game. In my case though, I'm just going to go down to upload files again. I already have exported platformer game.zip, but if I upload a file with the exact same name, it will replace that old file and it will make that the game itself, okay? So I'm going to press upload files. I'll go back to that exported game folder. I'll select the .zip file. I'll press open. It's going to erase the old version. It's going to upload the new one. And I have all of my old settings still, the right dimensions. In this case, I'm going to say automatically start on page load. I like that. I'll scroll down to the bottom. I'll press save. And now I'll go up to the top where I can actually click on the name of my game up here. That's how I can get to my game itself. And now my game will load for the first time. And hopefully it'll run. Okay, so now as you can see, the game is larger. The amount that you can see in the game level itself is a little bit less, so it's not scaling everything down. And now the menus work properly. I don't see that gray around the screen. And this is the updated version. We know that because, again, it is working and scaling properly, but also because when I go back to the game menu, you can see there is no gray. And of course, there is that new background color on the title screen. So you'll see that right now when I go back there. Okay, I think that is just about it. I did gloss over one important point, and that is if I go into edit my game project, there are privacy settings. So if I scroll down, I'll take a moment to find it here. It is at the bottom in a section called visibility and access. If you want everyone to be able to find your game project, even in this sort of beta stage or even alpha stage of your game development process, well, you can make your game project public. you can make it restricted or draft, which means only you can see it, I believe, or people who edit the project, probably you, can see it. So I will press save and I'll go back to my dashboard. But that will be it for this video. I will leave this Godot platformer part 17 demo up on my itch.io page at borncg.itch.io, so you can actually go ahead and see this exact project. I'll leave it exactly as it is there forever, I suppose. But that'll be it for this video. Of course, if you like this video or if you're swinging it, please go ahead and click on that like button below this video. It really helps out me and my channel. And if you want to see more videos like this one in the Godot game engine or in Blender or other technology, click on that subscribe button as well and click the bell icon to be notified whenever I upload a new tutorial. If you haven't checked out my Facebook and Instagram pages, that's where I post sneak peeks and previews of what I'm working on next. It's where I post most, except for here on YouTube. It's where you can find out what I'm working on before it actually comes out. But that'll be it for this video. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.